Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of DPO Africa Network, thank you so much for joining this special edition of the Data Protection in Practice as we celebrate 1 year of building a community committed to operationalizing data protection across Africa. My name is Komborerai Alan Maninji, and my role for this session is as your host is to guide you through the program and ensure that there's a smooth transition and that we will get the most out of this program. Before we begin and I invite other speakers on stage, just a few housekeeping issues for our members. Please note that this session is being recorded and we use the chat box to send questions, share reflections, and we'll address those questions during the panel discussion when if the time will allow. Today's session has been thoughtfully designed. We will begin with a vision setting address, followed by a keynote address from a regulatory perspective, and we'll move into a practitioner-led panel discussion focused on execution, oversight, and accountability. Let us begin by setting the tone for this webinar. To mark this milestone, it is fitting that we begin with the vision behind the platform. Over the past year, data protection practice has grown into a consistent pace for learning, connection, and leadership grounded in realities of implementation rather than theory. To reflect on that journey, express gratitude to the community, and share what lies ahead. It is my pleasure to invite Amaka Ibechi, the founder of DPO Africa Network and convener of the Data Protection in Practice, to open and deliver the opening address. Amaka, I invite you and hand over to you for you to take this time.
Thank you so much, Kambo. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining. Let me do something really quick. Awesome. Yes, it is indeed a pleasure to be here. My name is Amaka Ibeji, founder of DPO Africa Network. First of all, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. It is indeed a privilege to open today's Data Protection in Practice webinar, which also marks a special milestone for us, 1 year at DPO Africa Network. When this initiative began, I look back to the ambition we had, really clear but modest, to create a space in Africa where data protection could be discussed beyond concepts, checklists, and even beyond surface level compliance. A space that is grounded in practice, execution, and professional excellence. 1 year later, we have done well. 12 months of consistent showing up with our flagship program, the Data Protection in Practice webinar, and we are nearing 3,000 followers on LinkedIn. 100% of what we do is practitioner-led. This says something, because here at DPO African Network, what we strive to do is to ensure that we tackle real challenges faced by DPOs, privacy professionals, auditors, and compliance leaders across the continent. DPO Africa exists for one core reason: to support those responsible for operationalizing data protection. Not just to understand the law, but implement it. Beyond drafting policies, but embedding effective controls. We also see our role, as DPOs beyond responding to regulators, but building trust, resilience, and accountability within organizations. Today is an important opportunity for us to express deep gratitude. We are grateful for the continued support of our regulators across Africa, those who have honored our invitations, generously shared insights, and engaged openly with practitioners. These engagements send a powerful signal that regulation and practice are not opposing forces, but indeed partners in building credible data protection ecosystem. Now, as we look ahead into our second year, our focus sharpens even further. This year, we have officially launched our DPO Den. It is our one-on-one coaching platform. DPO Den was created to ensure that we can reach people where they are. It was created to ensure confidential coaching to support you, not only in performing your role effectively, but thriving and finding fulfillment in it. This is about career sustainability, leadership confidence, and professional clarity. We believe that success of data protection depends on the well-being and capability of those entrusted with it. So if you're curious about DPO, then we would like to encourage you to explore this, and you could actually book a time just to understand if this is a fit for you. I believe the link will be dropped in the chat. As we expand, we have also expanded our training offerings. Now, all of our trainings are on demand, allowing you to learn at your own pace. At the same time, we're committed to life learning. What this means is when you enroll for any of our courses, you will have the opportunity to attend live sessions when they run as many times as you will. Because again, we believe that flexibility and depth are not mutually exclusive. We want you to get started, but also come into the class because it's not about the curriculum, it's about our shared learnings together. In addition, we're also exploring mini courses. This year, you will see mini courses. What we're looking at is practical and targeted learning across areas such as DPIAs, ROPAs, incident management, vendor risk. And these are topics that are daily realities for many DPOs and privacy professionals. We will be sharing more on these soon. So please stay tuned on that. Another investment we're doing this year. We're currently turbocharging our platform with AI capabilities. We've launched the DPO AI and DPO bot. These tools are designed to encourage access to tailored responses from curated knowledge base and to democratize answers to frequently asked questions across jurisdictions and practice areas. Please, these tools are not designed to replace professional judgment. They are designed to augment it, reduce friction, and ensure that quality guidance is more accessible. I encourage you to explore them. They are now available free of charge for our community. Share your experience. We're constantly iterating and ensuring that this will be a seamless experience for you all. One of our proudest moments this year is our launch of the Data Protection Foundations book. We are so excited about this because this book was born out of collaboration with practitioners, reviewers, and contributors coming together with a shared commitment to grounding data protection in reality. And we are so grateful for our sponsor, Digital Encode. And with Digital Encode, they're giving away 30 free copies, and that will be given to people attending this call and those who will be attending our book launch on Monday, 26th of January. Please be sure to attend, and you will get an email for the first 30 people to get access to this resource. We're excited about it, but if you want to support, there is the link to also purchase. Thank you for that. And so, as I begin to wrap up this, as we begin this year, very quickly, let me show you the list of those who have also contributed in this work. We had over 21 reviewers contributing their time, expertise, asking deep questions to be sure that this goes out in the community and ensure robust learning. And we can't wait to see the results that come out from this resource. As we continue, we're committed to continuing that which we have started. We will continue to strengthen practice by connecting professionals. We will continue to build capacity through practical learning and expanding access. And we will continue to lead conversations that move Africa from intention to execution, driving excellence. I want to thank you all. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for trusting this community. And thank you for being a part of this movement that believes that data protection is not just a regulatory requirement, but a professional discipline worthy of excellence. I look forward to the conversation ahead today, and I welcome you to partake, participate, and ask your questions. And that is it for me. I want you all to engage, learn, and lead. Thank you so much. I will hand it back to Alan, who will be driving the rest of the program. Alan, please.
Thank you very much, Amaka, for the thoughtful and inspiring address and for grounding today's session in both gratitude and purpose. We'll now move on to our keynote segment of the day. As you may be aware, data position maturity is shaped not only by professional practice, but also regulatory clarity, leadership, and engagement. Our keynote speaker, who is my amazing boss, brings a deeply informed regulatory perspective that connects policy intent with the operational reality and professional responsibility. It is therefore my honor to invite my boss, Mr. Timario, to deliver today's keynote address for our participants. I hand over to you, Miss Mario.
I hope you can all see my slide. I just want to say good afternoon to you all. My sincere apologies that I think there's a technical glitch with my camera, and that should not be a showstopper. But let me start by saying good afternoon to you all, good morning, and good evening to our distinguished guest. And let me also start by the session moderator to say thank you, Alan, for moderating this session. I would also want to acknowledge the data protection officers who are joining us, and all fellow regulators joining this first year anniversary commemoration of the data protection webinar series. Invited guests and ladies and gentlemen, It is really an honor to join you as you mark the first anniversary of DPO Africa Network and the Data Protection in Practice webinar series. For some, indeed, a year may seem brief, but it is a meaningful milestone, especially on our continent as the data protection landscape is actually developing. As we commemorate this first year anniversary, it will be remiss of me not to congratulate Amaka Ibeji, the founder of DPO Africa Network, for not only writing the vision, but executing it in a very short space of time. It is through Amaka's clarity of vision and dedication to implement that has created this much needed space where we have conversations beyond theory through sharing knowledge, experience, and standards. Amaka has not just ended there, but he has also published a book to complement the work of data protection officers. And I think she really deserves a virtual round of applause. I just wanted to speak a little bit. I wanted to show these pictures for you to understand when DPO Africa Network idea was actually birthed in 2024. And I was actually privileged to be part of the midwives, I would say, that delivered this baby DPO Africa Network in Harare, Zimbabwe in 2024. And what is very interesting is that this baby was not just delivered by Zimbabwe alone. Yes, the hospital was Zimbabwe, but apparently the other midwives in action were colleagues from South Africa, from Tanzania, from Eswatini, from Malawi, from Kenya, who were participating in the Privacy Symposium Africa Network. Amaka was a keynote speaker at that Privacy Symposium Africa Network in 2024. And after all the conversations, she really noted the important need for all of us to have a platform where data protection officers could converse on various issues that they face when they are doing their practice. Well, for me, I thought Amaka would board the plane and go back to the US with the baby that we had assisted in delivering, and that we would not see the baby grow, but we were actually proved wrong. Here we are today celebrating the first steps that the baby has taken, and we look forward to the growth of DPO Africa Network that will continue to deepen the practice of data protection on the continent. So the two pictures that you actually see there was the last day of Privacy Symposium Africa in Harare, which was the 21st of November, 2024. And there you see in pink is Amaka conversing with colleagues from Tanzania, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and also when they visited the Putra's headquarters to actually
Titi,
talk.
I am jumping in here because you're not advancing your slide. If you
Oh,
want to project, you could do the F5 and project, maybe come out, come back in, and you can continue.
okay.
This is good.
Okay. So I was talking about those two pictures, and I was saying that from the two pictures, I'm sure you now see the two pictures there. And I was talking about the fact that this is when we were delivering the idea. In fact, as midwives actually holding the baby that Amaka had at the time in 2024, in terms of creating DPO Africa Network. And I just want to thank her that she did not just speak about the vision, but she made sure that she went and executed it. And apparently, I'm glad to actually say that in 2025, which was basically 2 months after the Harare meeting, PSA meeting in Harare, we actually saw Amaka progressing the discussion and coming up with a solidarity message to Potras when she had already created DPO Africa Network.
Data is the new oil. As oil requires refining to unleash its true potential, data requires protection to foster trust and value creation in our digital ecosystem. My name is Amaka Ibeji. I am a digital trust leader, global data protection regulatory advisor, and privacy and AI governance expert. With over 15 years of experience, my work focuses on empowering organizations to responsibly harness data while fostering trust. I am the founder of Pulse Hub and DPO Africa Network. The DPO Africa Network is an initiative aimed at empowering data protection officers across the continent. It is an honor to partner with Portras during this Data Privacy Week under the theme Bridging the Gap Between Technology, Policy, Law, and Practice towards strengthening data protection in Zimbabwe. First, I commend Portras for its leadership in advancing data protection and fostering a culture of trust, innovation, and growth. This symposium is a testament to that. As we consider this year's theme, I'd like to focus on the indispensable role of data protection officers, DPOs, in this journey. DPOs are more than compliance champions. They are architects of trust, stewards of innovation, and guardians of individual rights. Their work bridges regulators, organizations, customers, and partners, translating regulations like Zimbabwe's Data Protection Act into actionable strategies that foster accountability and trust. Designing with privacy in mind requires what I call an architectural, adversarial, and altruistic mindset. DPOs must ask, are our systems built with privacy at its core? Have we anticipated potential risks? Are we prioritizing the dignity and right of individuals in every decisions we make? Operationalizing data protection is both a legal and technical challenge. As citizens grow aware of their rights, organizations must design robust systems from ground up, ensuring compliance and building privacy first infrastructures. Good intentions are not enough. What will safeguard individuals and businesses is a resilient, privacy centric foundation. DPOs should take pride in their pivotal role. By championing privacy by design, they empower trust, drive customer loyalty, and strengthen partnerships. They are shaping the future, ensuring technology serves humanity while protecting fundamental rights. A mission as noble as it is necessary. To Portras, I commend your vision and leadership in advancing data protection in Zimbabwe. Your work sets a strong foundation for trust and innovation in the region. To all stakeholders present, collaboration is key. Let's invest in building our data protection capacity by fostering partnerships and positioning Zimbabwe and Africa as a global leader in digital trust. Thank you for this opportunity. I wish you a successful symposium and look forward to Zimbabwe leading the way in building a secure and trusted digital future. Thank you. Bye for now.
So I just shared those a few insights for us to appreciate where Amaka has come from in terms of creating DPO Africa Network, and the vision she had for all of us to have a space where we could converse and discuss and benefit from shared professional standards, peer learning and accountability. And I think most importantly, collective elevation of practice across the continent. And the thematic area of today's keynote really is from regulation to responsibility, elevating practice and driving impact. I want to begin with a simple proposition and say the maturity of data protection in Africa is not really going to be measured by the sophistication of our laws, but by the way we practice data protection as data protection officers. The practice with impact is at the core of the work of DPO Africa Network. It exists because there has been a fundamental shift across the continent as data protection is no longer a compliance issue, but is a question of responsibility, trust, and power. You may have seen that across the African continent, we are now living through a phase which I might call a regulatory awakening. When we look at the developments within the Malabo Convention itself, the SADC model laws that were developed within the SADC region, and the East African Community model laws to different national legislations in more than 30 African countries, we can actually see that the architecture of data protection law is rapidly taking shape. And this is important because laws provide legitimacy, they also provide structure, they provide minimum standards and enforcement powers. But all of us here might agree with me that regulation alone does not produce data protection. Therefore, the question before us is no longer do we have a law, but what kind of data protection practice are we building on the African continent? Hence, the relevance of the theme that we need to move from regulations themselves, from regulations, rules, to making sure that we embrace responsibility in our practice of data protection. We all know that regulation itself has limits, especially when we look at the pacing problem, which is normally called when technology moves faster than regulation itself. Regulators are resource constrained. So if as organizations, we just wait for the regulators to knock, as DPOs, if we just wait for the regulators to check for compliance, we know that data subjects will always be one bridge behind. And this is why the theme for this anniversary is so relevant. Responsibility matters, and we need to move from regulation to responsibility. And it is the DPOs that shoulder this responsibility. In fact, philosopher Hans Jonas argues that ethical regulation begins, in fact, ethical data protection practice begins where regulation itself ends. So, with those limits to regulation, indeed, responsibility matters on our continent. And we all know that the Africa data protection journey is taking place in a very unique socio-economic context where mobile money platforms are reaching millions of people. Like in Zimbabwe, we have almost a 90% penetration rate in terms of usage of mobile money platforms. And it could be the same for Kenya, it could be the same for Tanzania, it could be the same for South Africa. So responsibility really matters when we look at our own context as Africa. We have also noted over the past years the rapid expansion of biometric and digital identity systems on our continent. We notice the power imbalance between individuals and institutions, and also the misuse of data, really, which is basically causing lasting harm to data subjects. We have noted the importation of several surveillance technologies by data controllers in the midst of a low digital literacy rate. So when we look at all this, our data protection practice itself must be protective and not extractive. It must be development conscious and not exploitative. So DPOs in Africa must tell the African story. It's really, the practice must really be grounded in our realities. And like Chinua Achebe reminds us that Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So as DPOs, we have a responsibility looking at our own context. Contextual interpretation is really important. Yes, global standards are critical, but they should just offer guidance and not templates when we then look at our own context. Well, let's look at the local risks. Let's be local risk aware. What is it that is affecting our local context? We are now the bridge between law, technology, and leadership. We are the ethical advisors and the institutional conscience when it comes to data protection. We should go beyond checklists and look at risk-based decision making. Accountability must be visible and auditable. Transparency should be a trust, should be a tool that we are really using to build trust. And the fair handling of data subject requests is critical, especially when we look at where we are as an African continent or African ecosystem around data protection. So I know you are often misunderstood as compliance officers, policy drafters, and the regulatory liaisons. But in truth, the DPO's role right now in Africa is something more demanding. You are now the internal conscience of the organization, and therefore DPOs should not just be passive observers of the digital transformation agenda, but should be shapers of ethical infrastructure. And key questions need to be asked going forward. As DPOs, we need to ask the key questions. And the first question we should be asking ourselves is the processing necessary? Is it proportionate? Is it aligned with the original purpose? And also, DPOs need to treat rights of data subjects as substantive and not procedural inconveniences. Access requests or data subjects request themselves, whether it's deletion, it's access, a correction request should be welcomed and not resisted. Boards and executives should understand that data protection is a governance issue and not an IT afterthought. So, what do we mean when we say we need to move from regulation to responsibility? Compliance would really ask, what does the law require? What is the minimum that we should be doing as an organization? How do we avoid penalties from any regulator, whether it's POTRAS, whether it's South Africa Information Regulator, or whether it's the Zambia Data Protection Commission? How do we avoid penalties? But moving from regulation itself, from compliance checklists to responsibility, we need to begin to ask the questions: what is the impact of our data protection practice on human dignity? What risks do we create for individuals if things go wrong? What would we consider as fair processing if we were indeed the data subject involved? I know that no DPO can do this work alone. Networks are critical to build shared norms, to develop peer accountability, and to elevate professional standards beyond regulation. Networks will help us answer the real world questions. What does good practice look like? And let me conclude here by saying that regulators will evolve, fines may increase, regulators may become more assertive and checking your compliance day in, day out. But the true legacy of our profession really will not be written by enforcement notices or by non-compliance notices. It is going to be written by the trust institutions that we lead, or institutions where we are DPOs in. The harm that never occurs is really going to be the legacy or the true measure of whether we have done our work as DPOs or not. The dignity that you preserve quietly, consistently, and without any headlines. And as Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Without a platform like DPO Africa Network, we won't be able to grow and to know better. Let me end that the future of data protection in Africa is really hinged on ethical practice. Trust is earned through daily decisions that we make in practice, which is why DPO Africa Network is critical. Therefore, the task before us is to do better deliberately, responsibly, and collectively. Happy first anniversary to DPO Africa Network. As a collective, of the founding members, the invited guests, the members of the DPO Africa Network, and all of us, including regulators who benefit from the sharpening of the different DPOs that then are regulated by our institutions. I wish you well, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for the keynote, Miss Mario, and the words of wisdom that you shared with us. I'm sure everyone has heard a clear message on accountability, governance, and evolving expectations of placed on organizations and DPOs. So now we'll move on to go into our panel discussion where we explore how these principles can be applied in practice across multiple jurisdictions, organizational contexts, and professional roles. And to guide us into the conversation, I'm pleased to hand over to Irene, who will moderate the panel discussion focused on operationalization oversight and audit and data protection practice. Irene, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Depending where you are joining us from. I've seen people from India, the UK. It's exciting. I see someone from Ghana. It's exciting to see how people have joined. Thank you, Alan, and thank you to everyone joining us for this second segment of our anniversary edition of Data Protection in Practice. In the first part of today's session, we had strong regulatory and visionary perspectives on where data protection in Africa is headed. This panel brings the conversation firmly into practice, where policies meet operations and where oversight determines whether compliance is real or superficial. We will explore two critical dimensions. One, how organizations operationalize data protection across multiple African jurisdictions, and why governance, audit, and oversight are now non-negotiable for credible compliance. I'm joined by two professionals who work at the intersection of regulation, risk, and real-world implementation. Ian Olwana, I hope I said that right. Ian is a data protection and data governance professional with extensive experience leading multi-country privacy programs across Africa. He currently supports organizations operating across several jurisdictions and brands embedding data protection into business processes rather than treating it as a compliance checkbox. With a background in law and hands-on experience as a data protection officer, Ian's work spans data mapping, DPIS, vendor governance, AI governance, and incident response. He is also a contributor to professional capacity building initiatives across the continent. The second one is Onyenyechi Nwachukwu. I really hope I got that one right. Onyenyechi Nwachukwu is a lawyer with over 18 years of experience across banking, nonprofit, and private sectors. She specializes in cybersecurity governance, risk and compliance, and data protection. She is certified ISO 27001 lead implementer and auditor, a certified data protection officer, a lead auditor in licensed data protection compliance organization, and an active instructor, in GRC and data protection practice. Onyenyechi also plays a key role in convening peer-led practitioner engagements within the African DPO community. I will start. Many organizations across Africa now have data protection laws in place. Yet, we continue to see gaps between legal compliance and operational reality. From your respective perspectives, panelists, what does effective data protection in practice actually look like today? I will ask Ian to go first. Ian, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Irene, for inviting me. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this panel. I've had a bit of a technical issue. Kindly repeat the question. I was trying to.
Oh, okay. So I'm saying that many organizations across Africa now have data protection laws in place. The countries have set data protection laws in place, yet we continue to see gaps between legal compliance and operational reality. From your respective perspectives, the two of you, but yours now, Ian, what
Yeah.
does effective data protection in practice actually look like today? You can talk about practical indicators of maturity in organizations in this space.
Okay, so in my experience, we are discussing maturity. So the first of all, the law came into place. For instance, in Kenya, it was more of a mix of political pressure uh,
Mhm.
plus the need to have the law. I'll use that as an
Right.
example. So that means that organizations are more of catching up, and most of them are struggling to understand the why and trying to see how they can actually like what is in it for them, because at the end
Mhm.
of the day it's a business. We are looking at big organizations that have actually set up uh, good programs, and then we are looking at the small ones that are struggling to understand what is happening. So, good indicators of a mature privacy program. I will say the most critical thing is it, the organizations are more proactive rather than reactive. We've seen a situation where some of the organizations have had issues with the authorities, and they are able to defend themselves. And you look at the kind of program they have set up, they span over 10 years. Even before the law came, they had serious trainings, they had good policies, they have had a good culture, such that in case of a breach, they are able to show that they have done everything within their power to actually more of prevent it, which is now beyond their control. I'll say the second indicator is more of the privacy is embedded in the culture, in more of their day-to-day activities, and not necessarily like a checkbox exercise. We see organizations sometimes mature programs have privacy enhancing technology in such a way that there is very little, with even with minimal efforts, privacy is more. It's already in their system. Then
Mhm.
we're also looking at a situation where organizations have already understood that privacy is a human discussion. It's a human right. So
Right.
it is not a discussion around whether we need to do it or not. It is a
Mhm.
discussion on how can we make it an advantage to us.
Right.
Their discussion is around privacy builds trusts.
Right.
Privacy pushes a conversation around data integrity. So they're looking at how they can leverage data protection and privacy to their advantage rather than asking
Mhm.
themselves what is privacy. So I would say those are the three main indicators of a mature privacy program.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ian. I will quickly go to Onyinyechi. It's the same question. Should I repeat it? The same question. Okay. Thank you, Onyinyechi. Please go ahead. Hello? Oh, we can't hear you. I'm sorry, Onyinyechi, we can't hear you. Your mic is on, but we can't hear you. No. Maybe you could exit and come in again. I don't know. I don't know what that issue is. Your mic shows that it's on, but we cannot hear anything that you're saying. No. Maybe I can ask Ian to go on to the next question while you figure out the mic issue. Ian.
Yes, you can
Ian,
hear me.
yes, you lead a support data protection program spanning multiple African jurisdictions, each with its own regulatory nuances. What are the most common operational challenges organizations face when trying to implement one coherent data protection program across different African countries? And how can they address them without fragmenting their approach? For example, balancing local laws with global standards, consistency versus flexibility, things like that.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me address balancing local laws and global standards.
Mm-hmm.
One of the experiences I've had with the African data protection laws is that most people make an assumption that African jurisdictions copy pasted the GDPR, and they tend to make the assumption that because I'm GDPR compliant, then everything is good for me. But when you take time and comb through the actual laws and regulations, you realize that actually all of them they are very unique in a way, and
Yeah.
even when you come to a place like East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, each of them has a bit of uniqueness that requires you to actually um, familiarize with it for it to make sense. Uh,
Okay.
One of the things that I try to do in terms of balancing local laws and global standards. I try
Mm-hmm.
to address them what I call like a minimum threshold. I look at
Right.
all the countries that we are based in and look at all the unique aspects of each law, and as long
Right.
as they are not clashing, then it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
standard for all the brands.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that we use that going forward,
Right.
which reduces our basically our um, the friction between operations between countries, because when all is said and done, all these countries
Mm-hmm.
actually tend to overlap in terms of operations. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where one operations in one country leads to
Mm-hmm.
a breach of laws in a different countries. So that way,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you peace of mind. Then I work with multiple DPOs in each of these countries, and
Mm-hmm.
so the other thing that works a lot is we do a lot of research
Mm-hmm.
to just understand the expectations of each authority. We engage the authorities regularly. So because we realize that, as I've mentioned, the obvious expectations, I'll give you an example of things like cross-border transfer. Everyone
Right.
makes the assumption that when you are doing cross-border transfer, you will pick a GDPR template on the website, work on it, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but then when it gets to the ground, you realize that Uganda have their own
Right.
template, Rwanda have their own template. They're expecting a different
Yeah.
thing from you. So we do a lot of research.
Mm.
At some point, you'll find yourself having to fragment in terms of implementation, but in terms of the general policies, we are actually able to have like a standard policy that can cut across. So, or in terms of consistency and versus flexibility.
Yeah,
um,
quickly, because we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what usually happens is there has to be a balance of the two.
Mhm.
You can't say that you are rigid in terms of working with one specific way. So in some things you'll have to be flexible. In some things you have to be consistent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Onyinyechi, I hope you are now on. Hello? Onyinyechi? It's terrible. We cannot hear Onyinyechi at all. Uh, Ian, the ball is in your court, but thank you so much for that. We had two questions for Onyinyechi. We regarding oversight, audit, and governance, and another one building professional capacity. But somehow we cannot hear Onyinyechi at all. I am very sorry about that. Ian, is this a space you could talk to us about oversight, audit, and governance? Onyinyechi, compliance without oversight often creates a false sense of security. From your experience as a GRC, I know, Ian, you're not a GRC, but since we can't hear Onyinyechi, from your experience as a high experience, but probably yours as well, probably you have, worked in this place and an auditor. Why is oversight and audit now critical to data protection credibility? And what should organizations be paying close attention to in your experience, Ian, if you may, as Onyinyechi tries to come back on stage?
Okay, so I'll give more of like an overview since
Yeah, just a
it's not
short
my.
overview, I said. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for privacy tends to intersect a lot with information security because before privacy came into place, information security did the major part of safeguarding data before we segmented it into personal data. If you look at the fundamentals of information security, audit and oversight are very critical, and they
Mm-hmm.
help the organization to ideally see the loopholes and address issues. It goes back to the proactive approach of compliance, where
Mm-hmm.
before the authorities get to you, it's important to look at your program, look at your systems, get the loopholes, start addressing them uh,
Mm-hmm.
before they catch up with you. On top of that,
Right.
the audit reports are very critical, even when the authorities, in case something happens like a breach, they help to prove that you actually took steps to cover yourself before
Mm-hmm.
the issues, anything, most of those issues came up.
So, what advice would you give someone who is trying to explore this space, like a DPO who is trying to explore this space? What advice, like one or two pieces of advice, you would give?
Audit and oversight.
Yeah, they're trying to explore audit, oversight, and governance. Yeah, what advice would you give?
Um, what I was gonna give? Yeah, I think that one. I'll leave it to Ninyechi to address that
Yes,
because she comes up.
it's
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, but let's move on. Ian, you have worked extensively with organizations that struggle not because they lack intent, but because they lack practical guidance. Recently, you also reviewed the Data Protection Foundation's book, which aims to ground data protection in real world application. From your perspective as both a practitioner and a reviewer, what foundational gaps do you see most often, and why is strengthening these fundamentals so important for sustainable compliance?
Okay, so in my experience working across multiple African jurisdictions, many organizations struggle not because they don't want to comply, but because there is that gap of practical guidance, which
Mhm.
there is always the catch up because I think African countries came in a bit late in the privacy space. So that
Right,
means both the authority and the organization are trying to move at a faster pace to be able to catch up.
right.
So they may have policies, they may have legal awareness, but now the problem with or the key thing about privacy is it is a practical application. Um, Different from most of the other legal and compliance things. It's very practical. It is how
Mhm.
basically how I handle my device, how I handle physical documents in case they have personal data. So I'll look at foundational gaps. Uh,
Mhm.
Most times we find they fall under three categories. Okay, basically putting a policy into operation or
Oh,
into practice.
operationalization.
So
Mhm.
a good example is uh, I was working on a data retention and deletion and retention policy. And one of the challenges I experienced is the fact that it does not necessarily just say that we need to keep data for, let's say, 5 years. You have
Mhm.
to drill down to have a sit down with, let's say, product department and ask them, we have a digital space or we have a digital
Right,
platform. How
right.
will we delete this data? What mechanisms are we going to use to delete this data? So they have to give you a practical way. When you're done with that, you have to talk about things like what kind of schedules do we put in place as a reminder that after this period, can we automate that process? Then you get the challenge of physical documents which are being handled by HR. So that you can automate the digital part, but now it's physical documents that have been kept for 10 years. How do we dispose of, what kind of schedules do we create so that after this number of years, we
Mm.
already know that this list of people are going need the data to be deleted. So that's where
Okay.
putting the policies into
Operationalization.
operation becomes a problem. Then the other
Okay.
issue is measurement and continuous improvement. We
Mhm.
tend to drop off it's like dropping off like a program on the doorstep and then we leave,
Right.
and then there is actually nobody who understands what's next. I'll still go back to the example of the deletion and retention policy. It can be a nice document with very practical ways forward, but
Right.
because there is no training, there is no awareness, and there are no accountability measures, then it will never fly. It will never take off. It will just be another document on the shelf. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. I am very inquisitive. I would like to know,
Yeah.
how did you come into this space? What truly inspired you? Because you have done so much. I mean, in this space, you are someone that is referenced quite a number of times in this space. And many of our listeners are always intrigued with how experienced practitioners get started. So, could you give us a short snippet in how you started in this space and how you got yourself going before we close?
Okay, so I have a background in law. I have a law degree, but I had a lot of passion in the digital space. So I've done a bit of digital marketing for some time. I've done a
Right.
bit of programming,
Mm.
and when where I work right now, when the privacy, when the Data Protection Act for Kenya came into play, I was actually asked if it's a it's a direction I would want to take. It being an intersection of law and more of tech, I thought it's a good place to start. It was a bit shaky at the beginning because, as you said, there is a lot of gaps because there was a law without a commission when it started.
Right.
There was no direction, no regulation. We didn't
Right.
really know much, so we relied a lot on GDPR to just set the pace, do whatever we can
Right.
before things can start. So that's more of my background on how we started with the privacy. Then
I
if
would
there's
like,
something
thank you. Thank you,
yeah,
Ian. I'd like to go to the book. You were part of the reviewers of the Data Protection Foundation book,
yeah.
which aims to ground data protection in real world application. Can you talk to us about your experience, about the book? Let us talk about, let's hear things like the book's practical orientation, maybe, and how it positioning it in your understanding, positioning it as a capacity building tool. Um, yeah.
So I'd just like to mention first of all that being in practice for this is I'll say over 7 years.
Mhm.
It's almost impossible for me to get something like totally new, which was interesting when I was going through the book. I didn't know that privacy by design and privacy by default actually have uh, more of like other principles that actually
Mhm.
like the principles of privacy and of by design default. So I'll say
Right.
if just this is actually not marketing. If you are a practitioner, it's
Mhm.
important that you actually, if you can, get the book because it has very critical issues that I don't think I've found anywhere else discussing
Mhm.
the nitty gritties of privacy by design and privacy by default.
Right.
So if you look at any serious organization, which I've mentioned, one
Mhm.
of them being one of the few organizations, for instance, in Kenya that have managed to escape um, an ODPC complaint. Uh, the, I mentioned the proactive, which everyone has to. Whether if you're a serious controller, you have to be proactive.
Right.
Being proactive is actually a fundamental aspect of privacy by design and default, and
Mhm.
that actually has been discussed at length on the book,
In the
and
book.
that's actually my biggest takeaway from the whole review. It's that
Excellent.
being proactive, like it's going down to the detail of what does it mean to be proactive. Most times we assume we know, but it's
Okay.
important to actually be open and learn something new. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to check in on Onyinyechi now and see whether she's back with us. Onyinyechi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Thank God. Yes, we can hear you finally, Onyinyechi.
Thank you.
Um, it's
Sorry.
excellent to have you. I don't even know where to start, but
Okay, I heard
maybe,
the first question you asked me, so let me just take it up quickly so that we
yeah,
can fit it within the time. So when it comes to
yes,
what
absolutely.
effective practice looks like, we talk about
Mhm.
having DPOs appointed in organizations. And it's
Yeah.
not just picking up one lawyer in the firm and saying you are the DPO. Sometimes they don't even remember to give them appointment letters. They give someone who
Mhm.
has no idea about what it looks like, what is expected from them. So it's about giving people roles, telling them what that role entails, meaning you are applying responsibilities like we see it in ISO
Mhm.
27701. They must know what their day-to-day responsibility entails. You don't just give people roles, responsibilities without
Mhm.
authority. The
Yeah.
leadership must show the posture of how serious this is to us. Because if I come
Yeah.
to my colleague and say, let me see your books, let me see what you are doing, let me see what practices aligns with the data protection principles, they may give me the
Mhm.
attitude, I'm too busy. to this. But once there's an internal memo that leadership says this is serious business to us, we need to do this so we don't get into trouble. You see everybody sit up. When there is a questionnaire, when there's a training, when there's a self-paced training, when there's a reason for people to attend sittings, they are proactive. When they are required to send reports from their unit, they're also proactive. Every department has a champion. You don't expect the DPO to constantly be at their desk. Each department, each unit knows who is responsible for projecting these priorities for management. And then you don't just ask yourself, the DPO has told us what to do, we are doing it. How do you double check? How do you ensure that they are actually doing it? And who audits the auditor? So management must make out time in their agenda, in their meetings, in their sittings, to call in the DPO, sit down and hear them out, understand what the policy wants to really achieve and ensure that it's being achieved. There must be key performance indicators. You want to make sure that what we need to do is really being done and we are achieving the goal. And it's work together. And you want to know who is responsible, who is accountable, who do we consult, and who is informed. No matter how beautiful your policies are, if people who need to align with it are not informed, it's as good as not being existent. The RASI model helps and goes a long way to help organizations position themselves. And we see so many organizations already practicing that. We also see the role of the government commissions in the various countries. They already have commissions working. We saw the extra mile Nigeria went. Nigeria also has a DPO structure where we have agents who represent them in dealing directly with this organization. And it works in energy to achieve effective operationalization of the data protection law.
Thank you so much, Onyinyechi. I need to ask you another question. That's why I wanted to run to the next one. Building professional capacity through community engagement. Beyond formal compliance structures, professional communities play an important role in shaping practice. You co-lead our monthly DPO meetup that brings practitioners together. How has this peer-led engagement helped address world compliance challenges? And why are these forums increasingly important in Africa's data protection journey?
Apart from the fact that so many persons have been appointed to that role with very juicy salaries sometimes and not sure of what they need to do, even when people know what they need to do, sometimes you are faced with a very, very unique challenge and you are wondering what should be the solution. But when we come together and I talk about my problem, you tell me what you saw in another organization. For me as an auditor, I move from organization to organization. So I meet different DPOs and hear their different stories. So when we come together, you tell me your problem. It's so big to you, but then I have been through it before. And then I'm giving you ideas. I'm sharing my vision. I'm telling you what I've heard, what I know, what has worked. You see that you go home relieved, ready and more equipped to actually do your job. And so it's a time, it's like a fire chat where you come and then nobody's looking at you to say, oh, so you don't know what you are supposed to do. We are able to share ideas. We're able to rub minds. We're able to come up. There are some problem questions that come to the table, and everybody's shocked at the same time. But we are able to talk about it, dissect it. This one is talking from this angle. This one says, no, your opinion is not exactly helping. Look at it from this angle. And then because of the uniqueness of our different location, blending all the ideas together, we also share learning. I'm learning something from Kenya. I want to replicate in Nigeria. Kenya is learning something from me. It just makes a beautiful synergy that helps us actually deliver on the reality of what it takes to actually project data protection in not just paperwork or box ticking, but in practical sense.
No better words were ever said. Anyone on this webinar who would like to experience the fire that Onyinyechi has for DPO, join DPO Africa Network. Join the network. So finally, I'll start with you again, Onyinyechi, because I have missed you on this, webinar. So let's look ahead. What must change as we begin a new year and mark 1 year of data protection in practice? What is one shift, organizational or professional, that you believe must happen for data protection practice in Africa to mature meaningfully? Onyinyechi, talk to us about strengthening governance, audit culture, and professional accountability.
I love the updates that Nigeria has done to its provisions, especially as regards the General Application and Implementation Directive, where it makes it compulsory that data protection officers will give a a biannual report to management, and then
Mhm.
before the annual audit. What needs to change in this year is the intentionalities that organizations must bring to the table. We see more
Right.
intention being given to cybersecurity than to data protection, because so many
Right.
organizations are still not in touch. Like Ian was saying, they are still seeing
Mm.
what's in need for me. They need to actually
Mhm.
come out from that space of seeing a benefit, avoiding fines, to actually
Yeah.
owning this process. So recognizing that they are dealing with real
Yeah.
humans, we need to come out from the structure of box ticking compliance. So actually
Mhm.
become people who are compassionate, who respect people, who
Yes.
understand the spirit of the laws beyond the letters.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Ian, talk to us about institutionalizing privacy in operations.
I think I'll just give it one word: culture.
Mm. Right.
The biggest problem with the privacy, which Onyinye has mentioned, is
Mhm.
we it's like nobody cares about privacy until
Mhm.
it is now litigating. That's when we want to run around and
Mhm.
fix issues. It has to be embedded into the day-to-day culture of an organization. Figure out a way to make it unknown in your organization, whether people like it or not. It's not in their business to like things; it's in their business to do what is right. So culture is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Onyinyechi, talk to us in a short snippet. Talk to us about encourage people to come to the book launch, which is happening on the 26th. I like your passion.
Then the truth of the matter is that you can never have enough information in data protection, because
Absolutely.
just the same way as you move along, the temperature of the oxygen you breathe in can change even within the
Yeah.
same location. It's the same way data protection and everything around it changes so frequently. So you can
Mhm.
never have enough. And so when it comes to tapping, energy, tapping vibes,
Right.
tapping
Right.
resources, tapping knowledge and information from people who have walked the pathway before you can never
Yes.
undermine that. You can never joke with that at all. And that's the beauty
Yes.
of what Amaka brings to the table. And not just her alone, but you see
Absolutely.
the crop
Mm.
of,
Mm.
professionals who came together to actually put that book together, reviewing the
Yeah.
originally done work and adding
Mhm.
flavor to it. Beyond just
Yeah.
having the courses where you go to, you can sit down, read, and then the examples, the real life scenarios gives you a
Mm.
way of actually dragging life out of the
Yes.
essence, as in getting the essence out of what is being said. So we can
Excellent.
never have enough of this.
Yes.
Everybody needs to be there. I'm telling you, I will be there personally. I always log on an hour ahead. That's how important this
Yes.
is. That's how engaging it is. That's
Yes.
how important it is. So you don't want to miss that at all. And then the African
Excellent.
vibe. Once we come together, vibes must come out. The energy
Oh,
must flow.
yes.
So
Oh,
please join us.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Join us on the 26th. Please register and join LinkedIn. I think it will be put the book launch. We have put up the link. Join the launch of the book this coming Monday. As a DPO, if you need more reinforcement, you may want to consider signing up for the DPO Den that allows you a one-on-one coaching session. The good thing is that you can book a session to see if this is a fit before you commit. So don't miss out on this information that we all need in this space. Join the DPO Den. I can't thank you all enough. Thank you so much, Onyinyechi. You have brought so much fire to the webinar. Ian, you held the fort while we were trying to figure things out for
Thank you,
Onyinyechi. Thank you
Ian.
so
It's
much.
very
Thank
fun.
you for your wisdom. Thank you for your intellect and knowledge. Um, Thank you for grounding today's conversation in the realities of implementation, oversight, and professional responsibility. What is clear from this discussion is that data protection maturity is not achieved through documentation alone, but through disciplined execution, governance, and continuous learning. To our audience, thank you for your engagement and commitment to advancing data protection practice across Africa. We encourage you to stay connected through our community initiatives and upcoming sessions as we continue this journey together. Don't miss for anything. Please do not miss coming on 26th of January. It's a Monday. It's all over LinkedIn. Go and find it, register for it, and come. Let's launch this book. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure moderating this session. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Onyinyechi. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the wonderful panel, to our speakers, to our moderator. It was very insightful, and we had a lot to learn from you guys, and I hope everyone had everything to learn. So at this point, I would want to thank you so much for joining this webinar, and to say that I'll just ask if Amaka has got some few announcements before we can end the webinar. Otherwise, it's been an insightful one, from the keynote address, from the regulator, from the opening remarks, and to the panel. We had a wonderful time today. Thank you very much, everyone. If there are no other announcement, I'm sure Irene had talked about most of the announcement, about joining the book launch on Monday and everything else, the link that I put in the chat. Until next time, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and goodbye.